Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government. Do you still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center? Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they so afraid to answer a few questions? This story does not add up.
And then you mentioned the Hearst Mansion, which follows right in line with something else that you were saying. The state of California has taken over the maintenance of his mansion, but when it's closed, I know people have informed me that when they close that off to the public, they will oftentimes have Illuminati rituals quietly on the property. So, yes, San Simeon mansion there is definitely some Illuminati ritual property.
And I got to stop you again. Your book talks about Patty Hearst being under mind control program. Now it's come out saying she was basically mind controlled and that the FBI knew it and that the government was involved with her. That stuff you wrote about 17 years ago.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, that's one of the things that just like you're saying, when people read this, if they find something hard to believe, just put it on the shelf, because maybe in a year or 2 years, you're going to start seeing the proof for yourself. You're going to see it before your eyes, because now your eyes are open. Yeah, it's all around us. Every day I see this stuff, and I kind of just tune it out, because it's just, I've gotten so used to it being all around. So Astor was this. It's interesting how they choose these people, because John Jacob Astor was not somebody that you would think typically would become the most richest man in the United States, which he did. When he arrived in the United States, he couldn't speak English, and when he tried to, it sounded like he had marbles in his mouth. He was a very crude, unsocial man.
Now, going back to Fritz, you were getting into the Astors, other elite families. Why do they choose people, it seems, from nowhere to then elevate them up into a system that has royal families in it? Please continue, Fritz Springmeier.
Yes, I was talking about John Jacob Astor the first, not somebody that you would think would be successful in life. He... One time he's recorded as while he was eating a meal, his hands were dirty, so he reached over and cleaned his hands on the white shirt of the guy next door to him. So he had no social graces. He spoke like he had marbles in his mouth. It was hard to understand his crude English. Not somebody that you would think would rise to the top of society. But he was given the blessing of the Committee of 300 that they were going to elevate the Astors and they were going to make them rich. And so he comes over to the United States, and the fur trade, which was 100% profit, I mean, it was like gold. It was a lucrative business, and it had been going on for hundreds of years. But within a short time, he has a monopoly over the whole fur business. Now, how's that happen? And then he's given a special license to trade during the War of 1812, where he makes incredible amount of money trading with the enemy. And our president, President Jefferson, allowed him to do this. And then the Committee of 300 gave him the blessing. He was the first American family to be able to and be involved in the opium trade.
By the way, I'm going to stop you again. I've had former MI6 people on. It's been confirmed. As you know, the Committee of 300 that they denied existed 20 years ago, they now admit. It ties in Bilderberg, Trilateral, all the major groups. It's basically British intel, as you know. There you are, 17 years ago, writing about it, Fritz, and then expanding on that. I can't tell you how many researchers who aren't even into looking at the occult angle, Dr. Dennis Cuddy, so many countless others we've interviewed over the years, who will confirm that David Rockefeller or others are obsessed with genealogies of families and people, and there'll be some guy who's, you know, top of his class, but of tens of thousands nationwide are in the top of the class, and there'll be David Rockefeller or Brzezinski at their little college they're in the lunch line saying, come with us. I mean, they actually personally, and is that what you're about to get to? This has to do with bloodlines, correct?
Right. I'm just letting people get an awareness of how they operate. Sometimes people think that somebody rises to the top, like our last president, Bush. He rose to the top because he was the best man for the job of president. No, he became president because of what family he belonged to, and because somebody made the decision to elevate him into that role. But he was placed in that. It's like a big stage theater act where somebody decides, okay, we're going to have this person play this role. He can be president for this scene, and he can play the king for that scene. These people are not intrinsically the best for the job. And so John Jacob Astor was sending his ships to Turkey and getting his opium from sources like the Onassis family, and then they would ship them to China and make their big profits. So there was a book, Dope Incorporated. Maybe you read that book. And interestingly, of the top 13 Illuminati bloodlines that I wrote about in the book that you've been talking about, 9 out of those 13 are mentioned in doing drug trading. So it's just like this Back to the Future with Biff. You know, you get somebody who rises out of obscurity, like Aristotle Onassis or John Jacob Astor, and become incredibly wealthy. He became the wealthiest man.
They're just front men. I mean, I've studied Bill Gates. It was all given to him. We were just showing, for people that are watching online, radio listeners can go rent it and watch it or get it on Netflix. But The Good Shepherd, Robert Duvall puts it out. It is a historical movie. It shows Skull and Bones. It shows the devil as a king. That shows them doing rituals, blood rituals. ABC News, of course, has covered it, that they really do this and do human sacrifice. But they say it's mock, of course, being urinated on, bathing in feces. Here's some of that. I mean, this is what most of the CIA directors, many presidents, secretaries of state, and it's on record. Encyclopedia Britannica admits Skull and Bones was founded out of the Bavarian Illuminati in 1824. They came and set up with British money, but a German death cult. It's just another branch of that, of course, caused the French Revolution as well. They come over, they set it up, and it's set up by the main opium traders of that time with a monopoly. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, they're drug-dealing, devil-worshipping, child-kidnapping murderers, but they wear suits and ties. It's an army of psycho killers. And so many atheists say, well, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of this. Well, there are pygmy tribes that believe in rock gods. The point is they believe in it in their anthropology. Whether you believe in the devil or not, the New World Order believes in it, and they think killing you is good. Go ahead, Fritz.
Well, and you're headed in the right direction in answering the question that you raised, the issue that you raised a little while ago. Why do they have all these genocidal programs? Because their agenda is not human friendly. It's a satanic agenda that's anti-human. And when I saw the kind of things that they had planned for this planet, that's one of the reasons why I was so highly motivated to do something, even though doing something was not going to be the most secure thing that I could do in life. There's a lot of safer things I could have done, a lot of things I could have done that would have made me more money, given me an easy life, but I couldn't have looked myself in the mirror knowing what I knew and not stood up for humanity and for what's right.
And of course, Fritz, that's providence that an intelligent, focused, dedicated person like you would run smack dab into an Illuminati nest and get it the best way directly from sources that turned out to be accurate instead of us, you know, here I am 17 years later just putting pieces together. I mean, you really ran into a nest of these guys. I want to talk about that some later before we go to calls, but I also want to talk about what they have planned for this planet. We're about to go to break, but start getting into, you know, now we kind of got a little snapshot of how they operate, a tiny area, more in the book, obviously. But what do they have planned for the world?
Well, as you were intimating just a minute ago, it's genocide. We're, you know, death and destruction, rob, kill, and destroy. They rob us, they kill us, they destroy our souls. And that's why, you know, it's satanic. It's not just a neutral, okay, they want to make money. A lot of times people think, they use the excuse, well, Hollywood's making movies because that's what makes money. No, they put out a lot of movies that are pushing an agenda, not because they're going to make money, but because it's got an agenda behind it.
They print the money. This is their warfare system. I mean, they are attacking us. And what does the Bible say? That in the end times, you know, that the dark magicians, the dark lords of the New World Order would traffic in the souls of men, and that no flesh would be spared if God didn't intervene. And now look at the bioweapons, and they just enjoy dominating and hurting everyone. It is, but I mean, getting into the GMO, all this, they're trying to play God. Your views on that?
Well, yeah, I concur. Another example that came to my mind as you were talking was I've talked to people who, you know, as children, you know, George Bush, the first George Bush president, was a pedophile and sexually molested some of these people. And then I'm early in the 90s, I'm looking at a Masonic magazine put out by the Supreme Council, the Scottish Rite, and they have his picture playing with kids, you know? I mean, it's just something you want to gag and barf at.
And again, you're being told this by people, and so much of what they told you separately turned out to be true. You hope it's not true, but then there's Bohemian Grove that Richard Nixon said is a giant homosexual orgy, and the New York Post and Associated Press say they fly in plane loads of gay porn stars to have sex with them. This is on the news. We don't know who exactly is doing it in there. I saw photos in the camps when I was there for 5 hours of Henry Kissinger dressed up in drag, and I can't even say what he was doing on a family show, but he was, I mean, it's just, you know, again, and then you see Sandusky, and then the local writers that expose it say, look, it was the alumni paying money. This guy was raping kids in broad daylight in the shower like he was taking a dog for a walk. They don't even hide this. All these congressmen caught in bathrooms, Fritz. I mean, you know, exactly. It's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
These are the kind of things that motivated me to challenge all of this and expose it. It was disgusting to the nth degree. There were times when people that I was working with that had been in the Illuminati, they would tell me a story. One time with Cisco, she told me something that had happened. I actually broke down on the floor. I melted into the floor and cried for a whole day. I mean, I didn't even know a person could sob for a whole day, but I did. I cried for a whole day. This stuff is, it's absolutely incredible and way beyond people's imagination, because a normal, decent person's imagination can't even go there. And so that's why I got motivated to actually do what I did, and other people that have bumped into it and the depth of depravity are also going to be motivated just like me.